happened now? That's not what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to do. So let's turn the camera on for a couple of seconds. So welcome to our session at 10 security settings you must configure in Windows 11. My name is Jörgen Nilsson, working in Sweden, living in Sweden, very close to Denmark though, so which is the best thing of living with Sweden. In Malmö, south in Sweden, is the Copenhagen airport. Been working as a consultant for 30 years, working with management of Windows and devices. And with me I have Niklas.
Yep, hello everyone, Niklas Sahlberg. I'm also working as a consultant within the endpoint management and security space in the same team as Jörgen. So yeah, really happy to be here. Live close to Denmark myself, not quite as close as you do, Jörgen, but pretty close.
Excellent. So let's go. We have 45 minutes, so let's kick this off immediately, right? So 10 security settings you must configure in Windows 11. So why do we do this session, basically? Well, basically it's about time, right? We always talk about this, that working with IT and working as an IT admin is, we never have enough time to be proactive. It's one of the biggest challenges we have because tickets and incidents and world and life happens. The problem is that this guy here, he has all the time in the world trying to find new ways of compromising our environment, attacking us and gain information and whatever he's after, right? So that's the biggest challenge we have. So that's something we always talk about to take with us. Try to set off time every week to do some improvements in your security posture on Windows 11 and your devices. They are still one of the first in line when it comes to an attack or something happening, right? So try to do that. So what are we talking about, right? Windows 11 we got a lot of new security features. That's one of the reasons why the hardware requirements were increased as well. So we need better hardware. We require a TPM and so on. And that's because we want to use all the new features and Microsoft wants us to be secure as well. Microsoft Intune moves much faster than on-premise solutions. So that's why Intune also makes us more secure, because we get more information, more security features than we do on-prem today. So that's why we actually urge everyone to move to a managed Entra join device as well. But that's not part of this little session, right? So Windows 11, Microsoft claims it's secure by default. So why are we doing this session? That's actually a good question, though. But there are still things we should configure, right? And be aware of that they're actually enabled as well. This is from the Microsoft Security Experience blog, where they wrote about this. So their focused work on driving security basically by default basically helped us with 62% less reported security incidents. And this is compared to Windows 10 devices, right? So what is the difference? Well, the difference is that we require the hardware features that we actually had available in Windows 10, but we didn't require them, so many didn't turn them on. So that's actually one of the biggest thing we have, biggest changes there is, right? So what is this built up? This is actually a fun picture. There's actually one from Intel as well, which you can find online, where they actually map hardware features against this map as well. So this is from the Windows 11 security book, where you can actually, where Microsoft actually start talking about all the things they do from bottom up in the hardware and in the stack, basically. Start with the security foundation against hardware, supply chain, certifications, the Secure Future Initiative, which you probably all heard of, that Microsoft has been or is running still. 35,000 engineers has been involved in that work to make Microsoft solutions more secure. You see that today with the Intune connector, for example. You see it in the features we're going to talk about as well. That also is a work that came from this as well. So if you actually really want to go to sleep fast one night, try to read the whole security book. There's actually some really good things in there. That's also how they when 25H2 is released, they will update it, and then they will explain all the differences between 24H2 and 25H2 and what's difference. And we're going to cover some of them now as well. Right? So let's start with the basics, right? Virtualization-based security, VBS. This is not a new thing, right? But it's actually the feature that's everyone, all of the other features are requiring or built upon. So basically, virtualization-based security, basically it removes critical services, or like the credential guard uses this, and so on, to actually move services out of the kernel and Windows. And that's because kernel can be compromised. So even if you still compromise the kernel, you can't compromise the things we have in the VBS, because they are protected instead, and only the given services can access them. So they're not running in the kernel, they're running in a separate hypervisor on the device. So this is actually why we talk about this, is because this is the foundation for basically all the other security features, right? So this has to be turned on. And we need to measure that it is turned on, right? So how do we turn it on? Well, in Intune, it's pretty straightforward. We configure the VBS and we turn it on together with all the other features as well. And there we can say as well that we require VBS turns on with secure boot. So we actually secure the whole chain when we start the machine as well, right? So that's what we really want to have turned on all devices. We can measure this. If you're using like Defender for Endpoint, they can measure it as well, the XDR, but we can also measure it in Intune as well. The hardware requirements, some customers are still struggling with this. I saw that there's a lot of personal devices that's struggling around the world as well. But for corporate devices, this is where we definitely should be. When you provision a new device, make sure that everything is turned on in the BIOS or UEFI configuration on the device, so you actually can use all the security features as well. But these are not new, so let's move on, right? So let's start to talk about something else, right? Local Security Authority, LSA, is enabled by default in 24H2. As we said before, many things are enabled by default. This is why it's so important that you know it's enabled, because if you haven't done it before, it's all of a sudden enabled. Interesting here is as well that Microsoft uses a new approach. So if you do an upgrade from Windows 10 to Windows 11, it's put in audit mode for 10 days. And if there's no service being blocked or application being blocked, it will actually turn itself on. So if you use like a software that you don't use in 10 days after upgrade, you could still have to troubleshoot this, because it still enables itself automatically afterwards. And this is extremely important when we troubleshoot as well. So we actually know that it has been turned on, so we know how to troubleshoot, right? So if we look in the event log, this is what we'll see in code integrity. For example, in this case, it's trying to load Bonjour, which doesn't meet the signing requirements. And the error I get is this, basically, right? So this is what we will get when we try to start Bonjour on the device if LSA protection is turned on. So then it's pretty obvious, but it's not sure that the error is this obvious as well. So we need to know this, and it's a good thing as well. So Microsoft is really turning things up for us by default, which they haven't done before. So Credential Guard. Credential Guard is still also protects us against credential theft, of course, and pass the hash. especially if you're still in hybrid. It's extremely important to have turned it on. And again, for new installations, it's enabled by default on Windows 11 without UEFI lock though, but it's still enabled. If you have an existing installation, it's not being turned on by default as it is now. Will that change in 25H2? Maybe. There are still some incompatibilities with this, like if you use like MS Chat for Wi-Fi, we see that a lot, then you can't turn Credential Guard off. Then I always get a question, what should we do? You should upgrade your Wi-Fi security because that's too old stuff to build on. You need to be sure to upgrade it, right? UEFI lock will block remote disablement, like we can run a script or something. That's for security as well. And the hardware requirements is, as we talked about before, for TPM and the other hardware, it's actually VBS as well. So Credential Guard is very powerful, but we also have a tip for you as well. Use custom compliance policies in Intune, because what we see in the wild out there is that this is actually from my own device a year ago, where it actually says, so this is what Intune or any management software turns on. It will say that we will configure Credential Guard to run, but for some reason, Credential Guard couldn't start on my machine. So again, going back to being proactive, do we have the time to be proactive and fix this stuff and find it out? Or should we just rely on our incident process? So basically, we use a custom compliance policy in Intune and say that your device is not compliant because Credential Guard is not enabled. Of course, the end user probably in 99.999% of the cases don't have a clue what to do and can't do it either, but they will call service desk. And then we can figure this out. So we can solve it that way instead because we have a working incident process. So this is one way of doing it. So we must remember Intune or all the other management software, they actually only measures what the configuration is. So in this case, it's what's configured, not what it's actually running. And if we only have 45 minutes, but if we have a quick look at it, we run a script in Intune, which wasn't that one. We run a script in Intune, which basically just check this. And here it says, is it running? Not if it's configured, right? And then we have a simple, where are you, my friend? We have a simple JSON file, just verifying that Credential Guard is running. And the link to where you should go if it is not running on the device. So this is actually really, really easy to set up. I also set it up so the end user won't be non-compliant immediately, but will get like 1 or 2 days, and then they will get an email saying that you should fix it, and hopefully they call service desk before they lose access to their data and information. So that's just a tip on how we actually should measure this stuff and work with this in an active way as well to make sure that our devices are not drifting in what's actually running on them. So Niklas, being quiet for so long, Windows Hello for Business and enhanced sign-in security.
Yes, perfect. I will just steal the presentation for a minute here. So
of course,
with Hello, thank you. With Hello for Business, I think we all know about it by this point, but there is some caveats and some pitfalls and some good to knows about a specific setting called the enhanced sign-in security. Because as admins, regardless if you're working with Intune as an Intune admin or as security admin, enhanced security in any regard is something we always want to look at, right? So our eyes will catch this specific setting and we will most likely enable it, because why not? It's enhanced security, right? There are some caveats and some good to know. Basically the reason and why enhanced sign-in security exists is because the biometric data our users, you know, when they onboard to fingerprint or a facial ID, when we sign into unlock our devices, our Windows devices, some users and even some bad actors, of course, have some want to put this data to stake. So from a user perspective, they want to know, okay, how is my device, my sign-in security, my biometrics data secured? And from a bad actor perspective, they want to, how can I use this data to emulate a sign-in, right? And that's why Microsoft did come up with ESS, and it basically is going to use VBS, you know, that specific part of a hypervisor that is disconnected from the kernel. So even if our Windows operating system is being exploited, the bad actor won't be able to, you know, get their hands on this biometric data. And it's going to be a tamper protection as well, which is pretty cool. So it's going to just allow us a specific amount of bad signings, and then it's going to let us know, hey, now it's time for you to start using a PIN code instead. And after that, the tamper protection, you know, the amount of bad or failed sign-ins will reset. And Microsoft does state that this is going to be basically impossible for malware to exploit, because it's going to be, you know, protected by VBS, which is, of course, when we talk about security, we never want to mention impossible, but we are at least making it much harder, right? So that's something to keep in mind. And I did mention some caveats, and those are basically the prerequisites for ESS to run at all. We must have all the hardware requirements, because otherwise we won't be able to use VBS, and hence ESS won't be possible. We must use our internal camera and fingerprint devices. So if we have a desktop, like an open landscape desktop, bring your own device, or bring your what's it called in English? Well, you get the picture. Open landscape where you can sit wherever in the office. Then maybe, or most likely, you will either have a camera, like a web camera, on top of your monitor. So when you plug in your device to a docking station, you will connect automatically to an external web camera, or you will have a built-in one in the monitor. But either way, if we enable ESS, those devices, those cameras won't be usable anymore. So that's something to keep in mind. The same goes with a fingerprint sensor, and I have actually never seen, personally at least, never seen any, you know, a fingerprint sensor being hooked up to a docking station. We tend to always use the built-in one, so that's kind of a less impact, but still the same goes for the fingerprint sensor. So keep that in mind. Internal camera and internal fingerprint sensor must be used when we enable ESS. The BIOS UEFI must support this as well. So our OEM, the manufacturer of our devices, will be kind of have the last say in whether we can use ESS or not. Most new devices will come with this support, so that's good to see. And if our devices do come with a support from the BIOS and all the hardware, you know, the prerequisites, all of them are checked off, ESS will be enabled by default. And if we have some older devices, Windows devices, we can always check the built-in. So on the left side here, you can see that I am checking in the device manager. I found my PC camera. This would be my built-in camera in my laptop. As you can see, we have this value part of the capabilities property called CM DevCap and a secure device. So that's how I know that, okay, this device is actually ESS capable. So that's the first tell. So that's good. And on the right side here, we can see that I have the event viewer open. And if I check for the event number 1108, I can see whether or not my device, my camera, is actually enabled for ESS. And if we can see that the part in green, the census mode is basic, its pool type is system, and it's isolated in a virtual secure mode. Okay, so this is how we know. The virtual secure mode is how we know that ESS is actually enabled. And here is something that I've actually seen recently with a customer. When or if you enable ESS, if you have one camera that is capable and compatible with ESS, but your fingerprint sensor is not, then the fingerprint sensor will be disabled. You won't be able to use it for Windows Hello for Business. You might be able to use it for other sign-ins, but for Windows Hello for Business, it's going to be disabled and not supported because that specific fingerprint sensor is not capable of ESS. And also good to know, it's the other way around. So if the camera is not supported or capable, but the fingerprint sensor is, then it's going to just enable the fingerprint sensor and the camera will be disabled. So it makes sense, right? And it's a lot of manual work to check this. So, but yeah, oh, and one more thing. Within the account blade of your settings in your Windows 11 device, you will have this additional setting called sign in with an external camera or fingerprint reader. And if you enable this one or put it to on, you will actually enable ESS. And that basically means that if you're using unsupported devices, those will be disabled, and an external device will always be disabled. Hopefully there will come new devices like an external camera or something that are capable with ESS. Maybe we will see that at some point someday, but right here and right now, any external camera will be disabled. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind. And as you can see, this sounds good. From a user perspective, it sounds really good. Sign in with an external camera or fingerprint reader. Yes, of course I want to do that. So if we don't control this specific setting, it's going to the user will always put it to on, which will disable ESS, right? So initially I took it the other way around. Sorry for that. If this is off, ESS will be enabled, but if you allow your users to put it to on, ESS will be disabled. So that's why we want to do this with a policy, because that will make you know, gray this specific setting out from a user. Okay, so if you want to automate this, automate the check, and have a look at your environment for ESS, you could use my my script, which is basically a remediation script. You could either use it to enable it or to just check whether your devices are supported or not for ESS. That could be a first thing, right? So it's a remediation script, and you could just use the detection part of it to kind of measure compatibility for ESS for your environments, and you will find it on rockandroll.tech, which is my blog. Yeah, okay. So Windows Labs number 5. We have seen some really cool things, some new updates to Windows Labs. I'm not going to mention this too much, but there are a couple of things I really wanna mention. And the first thing is really great, the automatic account management mode. So within our settings, we have the automatic account management enable. If we enable this one, we will basically tell the device by policy to, hey, I want Windows Labs to actually manage my Windows Labs account. So that's step one. Step two would be, okay, so which account do you want to manage? Should we use the built-in one? As you can see here, to slightly to the bottom here, a 0. If we set this specific setting to a 0, the built-in admin account will be used and managed, and this is really cool. Or if we put it to a number 1, a new account will be created by the Windows Labs service and be managed that way. Personally, I always use 0 because it's really great. If we disable the built-in admin account, you know, the well-known SID and all that, we must keep monitoring that account. We must keep doing a lot of stuff to keep it secure. So why not just make it a managed account and keep it secure that way? And what does a managed account mean? Well, the first thing we see is that we get a tamper protection for our account. So this would be my Windows Labs managed account, my local account on a specific device. As you can see here, the password for this user, VLabs, yada, yada, yada. And I got this screen when I tried to just change the password manually, or if I try to rename it manually. Even if I am an admin, local admin on this device, I won't be able to do any changes to tamper with this account because it's controlled by an external policy, as in the Windows Labs policy, right? So this is really cool to see. And if we don't use the built-in account, that specific account will not be a managed account, so it's not going to be tamper protected, right? So please do keep that in mind. So pretty cool. And last thing I want to point out within the new settings is that we do get pause phrases, because this is one of the biggest challenges with using you know, VBS and credential guard and stuff. You have probably seen and experienced this challenge yourselves. When we do copy and paste, so as you can see here, we have this cool and nice and blue button, meaning copy to clip art, right? But if I wanted to do this on a specific device, I won't be able to paste it because the UAC prompt will be protected from my kernel using VBS, right? So it's not going to share the clip art. So I will not have anything in that specific context to paste. So copy and paste is no longer possible in the same way, at least, that our admins out there, first line help desk and etc. Are used to, because they have been using that for years and years, right? But all of a sudden, that specific space will be put in another context, and it's going to be virtualized within VBS, right? Meaning that the admin experience by using Windows Labs is less good. So pause phrases to the rescue. As you can see here, it's a lot easier to remember all of a sudden, because we need to kind of paste or write this manually. So eject, flyer, goal, button, curse, heap. You basically just need to say those words a couple of times, and then you can actually remember it to actually write it down. And it's still a lot of characters, as you can see, meaning that it's a pretty secure password still, meaning, yeah, to me that is good enough. We could actually mix some special characters into the mix as well if we wanted to, but still, as we have so many characters, this would be a pretty good password. So if we jump into our policy, the first thing within Intune, the first thing I want to mention is that the new settings are just supported on Windows 11 24H2 and later. So we need to create a new Windows Labs policy if we have one already. and then we need to exclude our Windows 11 24H2 devices from the existing one, and then we will create a new one with a filter and target it to our 24H2 devices. And then it's all about, you know, configuring these settings. Now all of a sudden we have the automatic account management name or prefix. It's pretty cool. We could actually make it a prefix like RE rock'n'roll-admin, and then it's going to be randomized characters at the end here for the local admin name. And this basically means that the name of my local admin account will be mixed up and rotated. At the same time we rotate the password, it's going to rotate and change the local name, meaning that you know, keeping it a bit more secure, of course. And yeah, so there are some pretty cool settings. I won't be able due to time to cover all of them, but definitely check it out. And if you are on 24H2, you really should go ahead and enable the new settings, because it makes the life of our admins much easier. And of course it protects the local admin account by making it managed, and we have tamper protection and all that good stuff as well. So for number 6, BitLocker PIN. It's from a user perspective or from anyone's perspective, it's not the best, right? BitLocker PIN has been around for ages and ages, and why do we mention it on a Windows 11 2025 edition session, right? But it's become exploited more and more over time. So we do see some what's it called, the BitPixie exploit, and we have others as well, which is basically going to go ahead and steal the BitLocker password from memory. Pretty easy exploits actually, and by using a BitLocker PIN, we will actually require a PIN before the password for BitLocker is released to memory. So before the BitLocker PIN has been provided by our user, there will be nothing to steal from memory in a DMA attack. And there have been some chats about this and so on. And if you're using a DMA protection, kernel DMA protection, it basically does state in the documentation that, hey, you don't need to use BitLocker PIN or any of the countermeasures as long as kernel DMA protection is enabled. This is not true, because DMA protection will just work after Windows has been loaded. So we need something to like a pre-Windows boot or pre-Windows load protection as well. And this is where the BitLocker PIN kicks in, right, and comes to play. And if we look at the Defender, if you're using Defender for Endpoint or the XDR, we can actually see that there is a new alert that, hey, these devices are not, you know, protected by BitLocker PIN. You should definitely enable it, and here are the reasons, and you get a lot of good reasons on why to enable it. The impact is pretty big, because now all of a sudden the user must remember the BitLocker PIN, and for modern devices, and by modern I mean an Intune managed device with Entra ID Join, we also need to make sure that we have a good way, a user-friendly way to allow our users to provide the PIN and to change the PIN if required. So there are some tools out there. You could check Oliver Kieselbeck's tool out, and to provide a BitLocker PIN after Autopilot has finished to provision, which is pretty good, right? And as long as your users are aware of what are expected of them, like, hey, what is this new PIN all about? then they will be good to know, good to go with setting and providing a PIN, of course. And with that, Mr. Jörgen, over to you with administrator protection, a pretty new and cool thing that is coming.
Absolutely. So how are we doing on time? We still have 10 minutes, right? So
10 minutes?
administrator protection.
We have 10 more minutes left, yeah.
Yes. So administrator protection. So why do we have administrator protection, and why has Microsoft done this? Well, basically it's about UAC being misused. There's a lot of UAC bypass techniques you can use to actually elevate if you are logged on as a local admin. So what Microsoft has done now, and the timing is about the same as the Secure Future initiative. So you could think that it comes from that initiative, is basically that instead of elevating your token, it actually creates a shadow account, a system managed admin account, or SMAA, at the time of elevation. So you actually don't elevate the token that you normally use. Will this cause issues? Well, hopefully not. We shouldn't have that many local admins out there. But yes, if there's an application installing or doing something in the user context, yes, of course, it will be a different topic, right? Because you're not logged on using the same token anymore. We don't want to combine this with EPM, privilege management for now, because they are both trying to create the virtual account, and that doesn't end up well. But this is actually one of the biggest things coming. It was recommended in the security baselines for 24H2, but then it was ruled out again. So it's actually still in the blog post if you look at that, or in the website as well, because it's still being overwritten instead, because it still is a good thing, but the feature wasn't ready yet. So the two new policies we have, you will see this in 24H2, is that user account control is now the normal setting we have, is now renamed from legacy admin approval mode to instead of admin approval mode, it's actually legacy now. So the new one is admin approval mode with administrator protection. And the only two options we have there is prompt for credentials or prompt for consent on the secure desktop. So that's the new two settings we need to configure. And when we do, basically we get this little nice user experience, the same prompt as always, but we will get this instead, saying that you need to log on. So, and if you signed in with Windows Hello for Business, you will actually be able to provide your PIN as well, instead of password. So this is actually very user-friendly, nice new look and feel. There's been some issues as well. If we remove the admin_account from local admins group, that shouldn't be possible because it's the system managed admin account, but as it's still in preview, or still in, it's in the insider versions of Windows working as it should. It has been possible to do that with, for say, Intune policies. Then you can't log on at all anymore. So that's a really bad thing to do. We also had problems with languages. So if you try this with English UK Windows 11, it says that the MUI can't be loaded, so you can't log on basically. But that's solved now in the insider build. So there's been some issues with it. That's why it isn't really recommended, right? So if we just do a very, very short demo, really short. These are the settings. Here I am elevated already with my account. And if I do like this now, it says I'm actually admin_admin. So it will create an _admin account for all the new users with the admin permissions, and that's the account that's elevated. And it's persistent as well. If you compare it to EPM, this is persistent as well, so it will still be there as well. So that was the extremely short demo. So let's go on with number 8, personal data encryption. So we have something called PDE. We have had that for a while, but it's now being able to manage in a much better way. So what it actually does, it's add an extra protection layer. So what it will do, what I can do now is say that I want to encrypt documents, pictures, everything I use for known folder move with my personal data encryption, so that if there's another admin, if there's another user on the device, they can't access my files at all anymore. And this will be, I think these kind of settings will be more and more important when we talk about being compliant against different framework like DORA, NIST, whatever you like, because we want to protect the data, the information that's there, right? But what we need is a backup. So if I sync my files to OneDrive, they will actually be unencrypted in OneDrive, and I can pick them up from there. The requirements, if we want to use the new features to turn it on automatically, we need 24H2. That's why we talk about it as a new feature as well, right? So let's do a 20-second demo. If I try to log on my device, I switch to password instead, it will say, no, you can't do this because then you can't reach your files. So it's using my Windows Hello token to encrypt the files. So I need to sign in with Windows Hello for Business. And when I do that, I actually get my files available. That could have been like a flash fast instead. But if we start here instead, if I look at my files for the same user in OneDrive Online, and we can take like let's take that picture, and you can see I can open it, I can do whatever I like with it. But if I go to this device and I go to pictures, we can see that pictures now have a little lock on them, and the same file is protected by encryption, but I can open it because I did it. So it's only encrypted on the device. It's not encrypted in OneDrive. So we do have a backup of that file, right? And with that short demo, Niklas, number 9, right?
Yeah. So yeah, let's go.
Or do you want me to share it for you?
No,
well?
It's all good. It's all good. So I'm just going to cover these slightly. Passwordless. There are probably some good passwordless sessions on this event. Definitely check them out if you haven't already. One thing I want to mention though, when you start passwordless journey, definitely check this specific setting out, the passwordless experience. So if we completely remove the credential provider for password, you will have a hard time using Windows Labs and stuff like that, right? But by using the passwordless experience, we will just remove the password as an option from the sign-in prompt, right? So that's basically the fast and quick takeaway from this session. As you can see here, if we exclude the credential provider, on the right side, there will be no possibility to do password, but with the passwordless experience, we will still have that once we are actually signed into Windows. When we want to do something as an admin with Windows Labs, we are actually able to do that from an supporting organization perspective. And the documentation do state that really well, so definitely check that one out. So that's the quick one. But another one, the last one for today, I will be quick about it here as well. Windows Hello for Business, I did mention ESS, right? But there are some other cool stuff as well. Multi-factor unlock. Shoulder surfing is a thing, regardless if you're on AirPlace or any public place. Someone could actually check for the PIN code, because the PIN code when you sign into Windows Hello for Business is usually pretty short, and you do repeat it on time to time. So the second time, someone could actually shoulder surf you and just check, okay, so the PIN code is 1238 or something like that. And that means they can actually sign into your device. By using multi-factor unlock, we will add another layer, another factor. So we must use maybe PIN code and then use something else, like the biometrics or something like that, which makes sense, right? So because we can shoulder surf the PIN code, but there is no way for a threat actor or someone on the bus who saw your PIN code to actually steal your fingerprint, right? So they would still not be able to sign in. So if you haven't checked multi-factor unlock, definitely do so. And this would be, we are on time, 11:45 here in Sweden at least. So 50 minutes before lunch. This is our summary. And by that, thank you so much for listening in, and have a good summer and enjoy the rest of the event. And for the organizers, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you. And if there's any questions, we will